course which we are starting today, that is the DRTP course. Now in this particular course, the very first thing which we have started is a research methodology workshop. Okay, now in this particular workshop, the classic component what we are aiming to teach you people is the A to Z of research. Okay, now before I formally introduce myself, let me make one thing very clear to all of you who are currently viewing it. First, see, this is a mixed bag audience. Okay, there are people from those who are doing their post graduation in the first year. There are people who are doing their senior residency. There are people who are still interns. Okay. Secondly, there are some clinicians from varied branches, and also there are people who are from the PSM background. Okay, so due to that particular thing, this is not a tailored made course which will be only be targeting only the clinicians or only the interns or only the PSM people. It is a mixed bag. Now, the reason it is a mixed bag, because research doesn't segregate into clinical side or into PSM side. Okay, so that is very important. Now the next point is, see, there will be many of the speakers who will be taking your sessions. Now we all are your friends. Now that has to be absolutely clear to you. Any kind of hesitancy, any kind of problem you have, feel free to contact us. Okay, we are available for you personally as well, and also via the electronic media. So we expect that you just open up your mind. The reason is, see, we do not want that you take this as a student and teacher relationship. Rather, you should be taking it as a professional relationship. The reason to it is, we are trying to build a research workshop where down the ages, probably 10 years down the line, we might be working as partners. Okay, so please clarify that. Okay, now I am Dr. Siddharth. Okay, I am a postgraduate in community medicine from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. I have done my senior residency from PGI Chandigarh. Okay, so I have been trained in specialization of research. Okay, I should say, I am not MD community medicine. I am probably an MD research methodology person. Okay, so I'll be one of the persons who will be taking your classes. Okay, but there are many more. So it's free for you to interact with any one of us. It's not mandatory that you should just link up with me only. Okay. Now, this particular course which we are currently learning, we will have this course for 7 days. Now, these are the dates which has been provided with specified details of each module. Okay. Now, see, today's module is all about the introduction. Okay. And there is a very good proverb in Hindi. We say ant bhala to sab bhala. Okay. That is, if the ending is good enough, then it's a good deal. But I'll say, if the beginning is good, you also cherish the moments. Okay. So today's class, you might feel, is not that technical, but this is one thing which will work with you for your entire life. So those who are attending today's class, just sit back and relax, because I want you to be active enough. Okay. So the first activity what I would like is, so those who are listening to me, please, hi, hello, bye, something across the country. Chandigarh, Patna, Delhi, Mysore, anyone? Yeah, okay. So we get the first hi from Chandigarh. Hi man. Okay. So good that you are here, and we are about to go into the technical session. I'm just giving you overview. The reason to that is, we are still waiting for the participants who have not yet turned in Delhi itself, because of the reason of high pollution. You might have read it out. So we'll have an introduction by that time in 5 minutes, and then we'll start with the project. Okay. Now see, we know that research is very important. Now why it is important? Because first, now everywhere you require evidence. Second, it is important for treatment and also for diagnosis. See, you cannot prescribe a X-ray to a pregnant lady who is having some chest symptomatic. We know it now. Okay. But this was not the case probably 100 years back. Okay. Next, in public health or even public policy making, this is a very important component. And also, if you are planning to become an academician, that is, if you are planning to become a faculty at a central institute or even in any state institutes, you need to have good quality research. Okay. So that is the basic aim of having a good, strong background in research. Now, what are the bottlenecks? See, being a student from the two most premier institutes, if you ask me, when I was a student, it was very, very difficult for me to grasp what was being taught. The reason is the head of department used to come and teach us research, and the sir or ma'am used to have an experience of 30 years, and we used to have an experience of 3 days or 3 weeks or maximum 3 months. So there used to be a huge gap where we were very much in a factor of phobia, or you can say a fear of stature. We were unable to clarify our doubts. Okay, that is one big issue what happens in our medical colleges. Second, majority of the medical colleges even in the state do not provide us any opportunity for research. Okay, now what we are planning, see, we are planning that we are utilizing the satellite platform to reach you all across the country, so that gradually down, probably 5 years down the line, we have at least trained 500 to 600 researchers who can subsequently perpetuate this knowledge to other youngsters. Okay, that is where we are here for. Okay, now, so the key features I have just listed you out. Okay, so we won't repeat it now. Now, coming to the technical session for the day. See, for the current day practice for today's class, I'll suggest you 2 books. One book is compulsory for all of you who are attending the class. It is a 200-page book written by the World Health Organization. For PSM graduates, there is another textbook by Abramson. Okay. For clinicians, there is a book by Hully et al., which is Designing Clinical Research. Now, all these are freely available on the internet in PDF format. If you do not get it, just drop a mail. We will be sharing it with you. Okay. Regarding today's presentation, you need not worry. This will be at your email ID by tomorrow morning. Okay. So you need not worry for that. Just be focused and try to be interactive to understand what is going on in today's session. Okay. Now, the very first thing what I'd like you to remember, see, never ever start a research project with a half-hearted mind or in a very rapid pace. See, generally I have seen my clinician friends approaching me after collecting the research, and they say, okay buddy, just apply some statistical test and give us the p-value. See, this is not how research is supposed to be conducted. You have to have, from the starting to the last, you have to plan everything. You cannot do a research by thinking, okay, this is my research question, I am going to collect some data, and then it is the headache of the statistician to give me valid results. It doesn't happen. And that is the biggest challenge in the Indian context, where we are trying to go for quantity rather than for quality. Okay. So we will have 5 sessions today. The first session will be the development of research protocol or the research proposal. Now see, this research protocol works when we do our thesis, whether it be our MD thesis, MS thesis, MPS thesis, our PhD thesis, or when we are doing any form of large scale research. Okay, these components are common for everybody. Okay, now it has got 12 components. As per the textbook of WHO, any research protocol has got 12 components. The first component is the title of your study. Then we give a brief introduction into what form of research we will do. Then we go for a review of literature. We set some specific objectives, materials and methods, which is basically looking into the technical aspects like the study design, the sample size, the inclusion criteria. Next is the outcome variables. What output do you want from this particular research? The statistical analysis which you would do, the budgeting for this particular research, the timeline, the ethical consideration, the referencing when we quote from different articles, and there are some specified annexes. Now see, if you talk about the thesis, now in the thesis you need not have a budget, okay, because you are doing it for practice of learning, but rest all stays constant. Okay, so remember this for your lifetime. Any research you ever do, please follow these 12 basic steps. Okay, now title. See, when you ask me, I say I am a doctor. Okay, it defines my profession. Similarly, when you do research, your title should be a short description of the study with the name of the place, like whether it is a community based research or whether it is being done in a tertiary care setting, has to be specified in your title. Study design has to be specified. So remember, your title should have three components: short design of study, name of place, and the study design. Now let me give you a practice question to person who, okay, from Chandigarh, since you answered. Imagine I want to do a research on the feasibility of having a robotic surgery at PGI Chandigarh. Okay, so what should be my title like? Chandigarh friends? If I want to look for the feasibility of a robotic surgery in PGI Chandigarh, what should be my title of research? Okay, feasibility of robotic surgery. Would you like to add something into it? Because that is just a description of study. You didn't mention the place or you didn't give us the study design. Okay, Chandigarh, still you are not close, because place, it's not important whether it is Chandigarh or not. It can even be in Delhi. What more would you like to add? Okay, PGIMR. Okay. What is the study design you will prefer to do it as? Very good, Patna. So the question will be to study the feasibility of robotic surgery in a tertiary medical care in northern India utilizing a clinical trial or utilizing a evaluation method. Okay, Chandigarh, Patna, good. Okay, so see, in your title, three things are important. Okay, description, name of place. This name of place, that does not mean you write it as Chandigarh, but you mention it whether it is a tertiary medical care in northern India, in southern India, in central India, in USA, Atlanta, anywhere, and the study design. So these are the three basic components of your title. Very, very important. Submit a research protocol without these three things. The first thing for rejection is this. Okay. Now, introduction. See, when we prepare an introduction, we think is like we used to write a long question or a long note in our MBBS exams. It is an introduction, should be written like that. No, the introduction is very, very specific. You have to first define the problem systematically. Second, you have to tell us the rationale of this particular research. Third, you have to state what is the research hypothesis. Fourth, you have to tell us what will be the application of this study and whom will this benefit. And fifth, how will it reach the targeted audience. Okay, this is very, very important, and this is how you mention in your introduction. Okay, fine. So whenever you write an introduction for your research protocol, please just open this slide, take down this 5 points and just start writing. You will never ever get rejected. Okay. Review of literature. Probably this is the most important background homework which should be done when we are doing research. Okay. And probably this is where we youngsters lose our patience. Okay. Now see, for the review of literature, there is a selected search strategy. Okay. Now, you can go for an electronic search, you can contact experts, or you can also go for a manual search. Okay. Now, in electronic search, the search engines which are available free for us is PubMed, Google, and especially Google Scholar, InMed, which is for India specific, and Embase. Now, we will have a demonstration of PubMed in some time, so do not worry. I will be guiding you stepwise how we use PubMed. It is the most commonly used electronic search engine. Now, contact with experts. Now, imagine you are doing a radiological research and you do not contact Professor Bhargav. Okay, it will never ever suffice your research. Okay, so that is very, very important. Now, if you are doing a community based research and if you do not contact Dr. Abhay Bang, then you will never get a success into it. Okay, manual search. The biggest source in India is the National Medical Library and also the respective libraries of your medical colleges. Okay. Now, how do you search? That is very, very important. For this, you should have some certain keywords. Okay. Like imagine I want to do a study on prevalence of hypertension in tribals in India. So my keywords will be prevalence, hypertension, India, and tribals. Okay. Now, we had taken a previous example where we were talking about the feasibility of robotic surgery in tertiary medical care. So the key words will be, yes, Chandigarh, what do you think should be the key words for your research in PGI? What should be the key words? Okay, robotics, surgery, North India. Okay, so yes, you should have these keywords. Now, next is you should mention how many articles you got and how many reports or unpublished articles you came across. That itemization is also very, very important. Following this, you need to represent it in a tabular format. Now, this is a standard tabular format which is followed by the Lancet and the BMJ even for publication. The same is followed by the ethics committee by central institutes. So whenever you write your research protocol, please use this table where you first mention the authors, the title of the study, the place and year of the study, the methodology, that is what kind of study design it is, the sample size, and the key results of the study. Okay, very, very important. Now, next, the fourth step is objectives. Now, in the objectives, remember you have to mention that these objectives should be smart. Now, why smart? It should be specific. It should be measurable. It should be attainable. It should be reliable. And it should be timely achieved. Okay. Now, I'll give you an example to it. Do not panic. Now, there are two forms of objectives. One is a primary objective. The other is a secondary objective. Now, remember, when we do research, we are very much excited to have number of objectives in our study. Now, that is dangerous. See, whenever you do any research as youngsters, take my word, have only and only one or at max two primary objectives. The reason to that is the sample size calculation is based on the primary objective. The secondary objectives are there just to have some extra knowledge. Okay, never ever try to have that ad of Pepsi, ye dil mange more. Do not have that attitude in research. Okay, now let's see this. The research question is, pollution in Delhi is more than that it is in Chandigarh. Now, what do you think should be the objectives for this research question? Utilize the SMART criteria and let's see what you think is the answer. Patna, Chandigarh, Delhi people, what do you think should be the objectives for this particular thing? Take 2 minutes of pause, think about it and answer it. Students from Delhi, have you joined us? Okay, so Patna, what should be the S of this? To measure the pollutant specific levels in the air. Okay, Chandigarh, how will you measure it? How will you measure it? That's the question. Okay, using the particulate matter. Good. Is this attainable? Do you think is this attainable? Do you think this particular thing is attainable? Yes, it is attainable, and that's what we do with the monitoring system. Okay, now what do you think should be the timeline? Should it be every hourly, every second, every week, every day, or every month? How do you think should you measure it? Okay, monthly. Okay, Patna, would you like to, okay, weekly on specific days? Okay, so for this particular question, the answer will be to measure the specific pollutant levels in air in SPM on a weekly basis using a random sampling of days. Okay, so this will be a very good objective for this particular research. Okay, so when you do it, never ever forget to follow the SMART criteria. Now, materials and methods. First, the study setting, where the study is conducted. That is very, very important. Whether it is a tertiary medical care or a secondary setup or a community, that has to be clear right from the beginning. Second, what type of study design would you like to use? This will be detailed to you in the module 2nd and 3rd of this particular course, where you will be having a detailed idea about the different types of study design, the study population, on whom will you generalize the research, the inclusion and exclusion criteria. We will have a look on the other components in just a while. Okay. Now, we need to calculate a sample size for each particular study design. We need to pick up a sampling method. We have to set a study reference period, that is the duration of study, and the study instruments. Now see, out of this, today we will basically be focusing on how to construct a questionnaire. Okay, because that is a very, very important part of research. We think that questionnaire is nothing, just go collect some data and then come and just enter it into the computer and get a result. No, questionnaire is probably the most important stuff of research. Now, outcome variables. Now, what is outcome variables? See, in research there are 4 important type of variables which you should be aware of. First is the independent and second is the dependent. Now, what does this mean? See, imagine if I am talking about my weight. My weight will depend upon my food, my height, and the level of exercise I do. Okay. So in this example, what is the dependent variable? The example what I cited, what is the dependent variable? Weight. Good. What is the independent variable? What will be the independent variable? Okay, the nutritional status, the food items I have, these will be the dependent variable. Now imagine I do a research and I want to see whether your alcohol does have any effect on gastric cancer. So in this example, alcohol serves as an independent variable and the gastric cancer is the outcome. Now the common mistake which we youngsters make generally is we think that our independent and dependent variable are constant. No. See, it depends upon the research question which will be an independent variable and which will be the dependent variable. Now, this is the statistical definition. Now, if I want to make it easier, I'll just tell you one thing. Independent variable is the cause or the risk factor. The dependent variable is the outcome or the disease. For clinicians, this is a very easy way to remember what is an independent and a dependent variable. Okay. Now, confounding variables and background variable, another two variables which play a very important role. Now, this confounding variables are those who create all the mess or all the confusion. Now, we'll have a detailed discussion on this in the module 2nd and 3rd when we will be talking about epidemiological designs. Okay. Background variables, very important. Never ever forget in your research to collect background data. The reason for that is, see, imagine you are doing a radiological study on breast cancer. Okay. Now, and you want to see the frequency of breast cancer in females who have had an episode of uterine cancer. Now, imagine if you would not have taken a gender and you have sent a layman to just collect the data. Okay. The layman goes and reaches to a patient. Okay. The patient is busy with something and collects the data from her husband. Now, do you think her husband will be able to give you a valid data for a female having a uterine cancer, will having also a breast cancer subsequently? No, it doesn't happen. So it is very important to have the background data, because you as a researcher can see the form and see that the person has filled it, that the respondent is a male. So immediately you reject that particular entry. Okay, this is very important. Do not think that we feel ourselves as census people by asking all this data. Okay. Now, statistical analysis. Statistical analysis. Now remember, there are two types of statistical analysis for every form of research. First is a descriptive analysis. Second is where we look for associations. Now, this particular descriptive analysis, you tell about the mean, the standard deviation, the median, the ranges. We just describe the data, frequencies, percentage, sample size, these things. But for association, we typically use statistical tests. Now see, the problem with statistical test is, see, when we were planning to become postgraduates, we used to read statistical tests as MCQs. Now in research, these rules are not that easy. Unless and until you plan the statistical tests properly, you can never ever get a good quality research. And this is what we will focus in the modules 4 to 7, where we will be training you in the basic concepts which outline statistics and also the statistical softwares. Okay. Now, budgeting. See, I know those of you who are doing your thesis or who have never done a big time proposal would think that budgeting is not our piece of cake. No. This is one of the most important things which actually drives the feasibility of your research. Now imagine you have a budget proposal of doing an exquisite research which will cost you 10 crores, but the government of India gives you only 1 crore. So you have two options. Either you do not do the research or you do a shortcut research. Okay. So that's the reason budgeting is a very important thing, because if you prepare your budget properly, you have a sneak peek into the issues which might arise in the middle of research because of budgetary constraints. Now there are three types of costs. Very simple: overhead, intermediate, and recurrent. Now what are the meaning of this? See, let's talk about the hospital AIMS. The building of AIMS is the overhead cost, the building. The intermediate cost is to get the instruments, to buy the instruments. and the recurrent cost is the salaries of the staffs and the cost of the reagents, the day-to-day travel allowance, the daily allowances, all this. Okay. Now remember, you should prepare this budget on an Excel sheet. MS Excel is the best software to prepare a budget, and remember to use formulas. Okay. Now you can see this is a budget which was made. You can see over here we have put a unit price, units, how many are the quantities, the total, okay, what form of taxes you will have, and since this proposal was submitted to a foreign agency, we had also made a conversion into the US dollars. Okay, so this is how you prepare a budget. This is the standard format accepted by the Indian Council of Medical Research also for preparing a budget. Okay, now timeline. See, this is one thing where we Indians are very poor at. See, if I say that I'll meet you at 9 o'clock, this means I will be there maximum by 9:30. So this is bad. Now, research doesn't work in this. See, in research, you have to have a very specific timeline, and for this particular timeline, we use something called as a Gantt chart. Okay, this is a Gantt chart. Now, this is a very specific way to represent the timeline. Now, I'll show you my timeline for my thesis, okay, which I had done when I was a postgraduate. Okay, so this is some form of a Gantt chart where I had to do it in a span of 6 months, and I had given the month, and this was how I had performed it. Okay, this is very important if you are planning to do a good quality research. Okay, now friends, see, all this what I am now making you understand, I am giving to you. See, it is important for you to follow it whenever you do research. Do not think this to be a theoretical class, because see, I am telling you all these components, and in the afternoon session you will have a practical demonstration for almost 1 hour of all these components as well. Okay, so please follow it whenever you are into research. Okay, now ethical consideration, informed consent, and participant information sheet. Now this is one piece of cake which is not for all. If you are interested, please just drop a mail. I'll be sharing with you with some key components which will help you actually to get a feel into how you are actually into this part. Generally, this is a super specialization subject. You must have heard about medical ethics. Okay, so we cannot, because of constraints of time, we do not get into the details of this. Okay, but they are equally important. Now, references, this should always be written in chronological order from introduction onwards. Okay, now annexer, there should be a participant information sheet. Now in the bracket I have mentioned in English and Hindi. See, for North India it is in Hindi. Now if you want to do a research in West Bengal, it should be in Bengali. If you want to do a research in Tamil Nadu, it should be in Tamil. Okay, similar is the informed consent form, the questionnaires on the interview schedule, and the permission letters. These are the 4 key components which should be there in your annexer. Okay, now, so this is a brief introduction into how you write a research protocol. Now I have only introduced, because by the end of all the modules we will be covering all this 12 in great detail, which will actually help you in doing a good quality research. Okay, now Delhi friends, have you joined us yet? Friends at Delhi, have you joined us? Okay, so probably still we have not been joined by Delhi friends. Okay, Patna and Chandigarh, any form of doubts you would like to clarify in for these particular things what has been taught? I'll just wait for a minute. Any form of doubt which you will like me to clarify? Yes, no, just type it. Yes, you have a doubt. No, you do not have a doubt. Okay, Patna. Okay, fine. Now see, when we are talking about a research protocol and when we are talking about a final thesis or a final report or an article which has to be published, we say writing a protocol, writing a thesis is a very tedious job. Now, why it is a tedious job? The reason is nobody has ever told us that a good research protocol only changes into a final thesis or a final report or an article. Now see, if I'm talking about a final report or a final thesis, you should have the title, you should have the same introduction, you should have the same review of literature, the same objectives, the same material and methods, the same budgeting or the financial grants, the same ethical consideration. So see, these 7 points are still common. So you just copy paste from your protocol. Now imagine if you would not have done your protocol properly, you would not do the research properly, and you would not write a report properly. Okay. Now results is what is achieved after doing the research. Now there is a very important component in this where we are going for discussion. Now what is a discussion? Now we think that discussion is nothing but just going forth and back and forth and back. No. See, whatever result you get, you need to have discussion using the review of literature. Now imagine if I say that CT scan is the investigation of choice for carcinoma lung, which I have got in my particular research doing a sensitivity and specificity testing. I should also compare it with the different research work which has been done till date. Okay. Followed by this is the strengths. Now remember, strengths, if it is important 100%, to mention the limitations, it is important 500%. See, imagine you as a researcher upfront accept your mistake and say these are the particular limitations in my study. Automatically the person who is reading your report will feel, yes, these were the practical challenges, and that's the reason this research doesn't answer this. It is always wiser to list more limitation as compared to strengths. Okay, but do not be over enthusiastic in criticizing your research to such an extent that people don't accept it at all. Okay, followed by this is the references. Now writing the reference is an art. Now we as undergraduates rarely had an experience to this. For referencing, I will be briefing this in some time as well, which is a very important key part. Annexers and conflicts of interest. Now what is conflicts of interest? See, it is very easy. Now imagine you are a surgeon and you are a laparoscopic surgeon, and your wife is the head of an industry which makes laparoscopic units. So definitely you will prefer to promote your wife and do all the surgeries as a laparoscopic surgery. Now that is dangerous. When it is dangerous? If you have not disclosed it. Now if you clearly mention it, then it is considered not to be a conflict of interest in many settings. Okay. Now, writing an article, the only extra point is about an abstract. See, it should be of 150 to 200 words, and it should be structured or unstructured. Okay, and it should be written as per the outline which I have detailed you over here. See friends, we always say that research publication is a very essential stuff if you want to do well in the field of academics. Now that can only be achieved if you are having this particular flow of 15 items. Okay, so Please always be sincere enough to follow these 15 points. You will never ever get your article rejected, even from the best medical journals. Okay. Now, selecting a journal is another big challenge. Now, the very first step is, generally you should prefer an international journal which should be indexed. Now see, indexed where? It is always better to go for a PubMed indexed, because the Medical Council of India and also globally researchers prefer articles published in a PubMed indexed journal. Impact factor. Now you go to any journal's website, impact factor is the first thing which will be evident, because that is the thing which sells a journal. Now it should generally be more than one. See, for beginners, you can compromise with the impact factor, but never ever compromised with the indexed journal. Frequency of publication. Generally, if it is a monthly one, it is better, because you have more chances for your article to be published. Look into the publication fees. Exorbitant fees is not possible for young researchers to fund themselves, so you should also look into this. See the response time or the response date. See, whenever you go to a particular website of a journal, they generally write that you will get a response in 24 hours or 48 hours. Now, never ever get biased by this. See whether it is a reality by looking into some published articles, because in every article published, they write the date of acceptance and the date when it is published. So you need to have a clear vision into that. Okay. Now I'll tell you a very secret trick. See, imagine you want to publish an article in International IEA journal, International Epidemiological Association journal. The trick is, out of 50 references, at least 10 to 20% of the references should be from that journal itself. Okay, from previous studies which has been published in that journal. Now see, everybody wants that they should get a benefit of publishing your research, and this is an indirect benefit, because this helps to increase the citation and ultimately the impact factor of that particular journal. Okay, so this is a trick which you need to follow whenever you are selecting a journal. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Now, article submission. Now see, submitting the article in the journal is very important, which should be done not when you are half sleepy, rather it should be done when you are awake and fully alert. The reason, there is a peculiar style for journal submission across every journals. Now second, remember there is a particular sequence for each journal when you submit it. These things have to be taken care of clearly before submission. Okay. Now, this is one part of research where you are the investigator. Now imagine you are reading the work of some person or some research article and you want to critically read it. Okay. Now you follow the same things. You search for the same 12 or 13 or 14 points, whether they have clearly mentioned it in the article or not. The reason, see, one is called as reading, one is called as critical appraisal. See, as researchers, we are expected to be critically appraising the articles. Now, if I ask, is it a good thing for banning alcohol in the state of Bihar? Okay, everybody has their own view into it, but we do not have a research publication into it. Okay, now if there is a research publication, we can critically appraise and see, has this ban provided any benefit to the society or to the person at large, or is there a gross loss of excise taxes? Okay. Now, these are some critical appraisal tools. Okay. These are standard tools which are used by all the research journals and also by the ICMR. Okay, you can just Google any of the tool you want to see. It is nothing but a questionnaire, okay, where there is some 10 to 15 components to critically evaluate a particular study design. Okay, so for every study you can see that there is some or the other tool which is available. Now these are very specific. You need not mug them up. Whichever study you read, just Google it out, get this, analyze, and just move on. Okay. With this, we come to the end of the session 1. There is no break, okay, because we were quick enough to finish this. Okay. Now, is there any form of doubt which you will like to raise in the second half of this session 1? Any doubts which you will like to raise in the second half? Chandigarh, Patna, Delhi friends. I'm waiting. Yes, there is a difference between a structured and an unstructured abstract. Now see, what is a structured abstract? See, a structured abstract is one where all these 12 points which I have shown you, they are also written in the abstract. We write it as a title, introduction, material and methods. So we have this. An unstructured abstract is one where we do not have such subpoints and we just write it like an essay or a paragraph. Okay, we just write it as an essay or a paragraph. That is the only difference. Otherwise, the material which is written is not much different. Okay, Chandigarh, any doubt? Okay. Now, so we now start the session 2, okay, where we will be talking about how to develop a questionnaire, about PubMed, which I'll tell you about the review of literature, and how to reference, how do we actually perform the referencings. Okay, see, this is actually a technical session and requires greater degree of concentration. Okay, now the very first topic is development of questionnaire. Now, what is a questionnaire and how is it different from an interview schedule? See, these are very technical words. Never ever use them loosely. See, a questionnaire is a printed question which has to be completed by the respondent. Whereas interview schedule is a verbal mode of communication. So never ever mention in your research protocol that you have done a research using an interview schedule. Okay, if you are using a printed questionnaire or an electronic questionnaire. Okay, this is a very key point which generally leads to rejection in case of good committees if they are reviewing a research proposal. Okay, now types of question. It may be a open-ended and it may be a close-ended. I'll give you a very good example. Okay, now if I ask to my friend at Chandigarh, okay buddy, you are a boy or a girl? Okay, what will be your answer? Chandigarh, if I ask you are a boy or a girl or a male or a female, what will be your answer? Okay, so the Chandigarh friend is a boy or a male. Now see, this is a close-ended question because we'll write option 1 as male, option 2 as female, option 3 as undefined. So since we have 1 as male, we'll just put a tick. Now if I ask my Patna friend and say, what do you think about the alcohol ban in Patna, or what do you think about the alcohol ban in Bihar? Okay, so that particular student might provide a huge description about this particular event and even share the personal experience which that particular student had prior to the ban and after this ban. Now this is a open-ended question. Now you should be very, very clear about this. Now, open-ended questions are also called as free response questions. The subject answers in his own word. It is basically applied to qualitative form of research. Like another example is, what do you think about the pollution in Delhi? For continuously distributed variables also, we can use a open-ended question. Close-ended, over here we give multiple choices. Like I told you, 1, 2, 3. There is another example. What is your blood group? It can be A, B, AB or O. Okay. Now, these were the types of questions. Now, these questions are used to build a questionnaire. One is a structured questionnaire, one is an unstructured questionnaire, and one is a semi-structured questionnaire. Now remember, in research, the most commonly used form of questionnaire is the semi-structured form of questionnaire. Okay. Now, structured example, it is one of the example is the World Health Organization STEPS surveillance questionnaire. Now why am I saying it to be structured? See, this is one questionnaire which has been developed by WHO for a global use. Everywhere in the world this will be all the same. You cannot make modifications in it. Okay. Now, the key component of this is all the study subjects are asked the same question in the same particular manner. Okay, like if I ask an African, how much do you smoke? The same question applies even in India. Okay. Semi-structured, a mixture of both forms, open-ended and closed-ended questions, which is most commonly used. Now, unstructured, this is generally done in qualitative studies where the interviewer asks questions as per the participants' responses. Like if I ask you people, why do you want to do this course? Now, the answer might come from our Patna friend. Okay, I want to learn this because I want to work as a faculty in a central institute. So my next question will be, okay, which central institute will you prefer? Why would you prefer that particular central institute? So this is a unstructured questionnaire which is used in qualitative studies. Now imagine if I have a person from radiology and the person has to do a qualitative research on comparison between CT scan and MRI and the satisfaction of patients. This will use an unstructured questionnaire. The same person will be subjected to a CT scan, the same person will be subjected to a MRI, and then my radiology friend will go ahead and ask the patient, how was your experience with the CT scan? The same question to the participant again, how was your experience with the MRI machine? Okay, so this is what is a unstructured questionnaire. Now see, once you develop a questionnaire, I'll be showing you how to develop, do not worry. Now this questionnaire may be self-administered. How do you self-administer? See, many times these days you receive an email where you need to fill a form. Okay, please give your feedback about YouTube, about Paytm. Okay, you just fill some components and they say that if you fill this, you will get 50 rupees off on Domino's pizza. Okay, earlier this used to be sent by post. Now there is another called as computerized self-administered questionnaire which is built on computer, or it may also be based on a audio based medium. Okay, depending upon the type of research, you just make these modifications. The advantage of the self-administered questionnaire is it is simpler and cheaper and can be administered to many persons simultaneously. See, I send a mail, I can reach the entire world in just 1 minute. Now, this is better when you are talking about the qualitative aspects or when you are talking about the behavioral aspects. Okay. Now, practice exercise. Imagine you are a primary investigator and wanted to collect data on premarital sexual intercourse using a self-administered questionnaire in medical interns. Now, what do you think will be the problem using this particular type of method? I told you the advantages. Now I want from you what will be the problem if I get this questionnaire filled from the students. Chandigarh, Patna, what do you think will be the problems? Come on, क्या हो गया? Asleep, cold, too cold, no food. Okay. So one is may not want to share the details. Yes. What other problems do you expect? What other problems do you expect? Chandigarh, okay, may would not accept the questionnaire. Yes. Any other problem do you think? False data. Okay, because of social desirability, many might give you a false response to it. Okay, so these are some of the issues with this self-administered questionnaire, which even we face. You might have seen many kinds of survey, we never participate in it. Okay, so this is a danger with this type of survey. Now the second is when you use a interview based questionnaire, you have a printed one, you go ahead and take an interview of the person one to one. Now using the same question, what do you think will be the benefits of using an interview based questionnaire if you would have done the same research? What do you think would have been the benefits? Come on, Patna, Chandigarh. Okay, it would have been more accurate, more additional information. Okay, Chandigarh, what do you think would have been the problem with this? What do you think would have been the problem if I would have used this kind of questionnaire in an interview mode? Okay, it would have taken more time. Okay, what do you think? What more problems would you have faced? Imagine you are a boy and you get a medical intern who is a girl. What would have been the scene over there? Yes, the particular respondent would have been more shy to answer. Now see, these are some issues which as investigator you have to take into consideration. Now see, there is no blanket thing that okay, for this research you do this, for this research you do this. This comes with experience. Okay, and this is one thing which generally young researchers lack because we are not to that extent in the practical world as compared to our senior people. Okay, now some others, postal and mail, they have their own merits and demerits, not commonly used. Okay, now the best strategy which should be obtained for obtaining the responses is going for a mixed strategy. Okay, going for a mixed strategy. Now construction of a questionnaire, very important topic. Now remember, you can use an already existing questionnaire. Okay, now there is a catch in this. Okay, now if you use the already existing questionnaire, then you have to see what additional information does your research yield. Does it at all yield any extra information or not? Because generally it has been seen that we do not have a scope of extra facility, or extra benefits do not come out of a repeated research. Now this is quite dangerous. The second, translation and back translation. Now what does this mean? See, imagine I want to ask what is the day today. Okay, I want to ask you what is the day today, or what is the date today. You say, sir, it is Sunday and it is 10:15 a.m. Okay, now imagine I transfer this into Hindi. Okay, then it will be आज का दिन क्या है. If I make this आज का दिन क्या है, the person will answer is today is रविवार. Now see, I wanted to know आज का दिन क्या है and आज का तारीख क्या है. I wanted to know what is the date and day of today. So the answer changes. So this translation and back translation should always be done by a person who has good command on both the form of your languages. Okay, see, if I tell you my example, I was not that good at Hindi when I had joined my post graduation. Okay, so I had to take help of one of my friends who knew Hindi very very well. Okay, due to this very reason, you have to understand that it is always wiser to take help rather than to find out a shortcut. Okay, now for nominal variables, I'll tell you what is a nominal variable in some time. You should use as many response categories as possible. Okay, now developing a questionnaire wording, very very important. See, be careful to avoid language that is familiar to you. Like we always say, do you have diabetes mellitus? Now how do you expect a non-medical person to understand in a rural setup what is diabetes mellitus? A radiologist asking, okay, we are now going to do a DTPS scan. Okay, you need to just lie down. The person will ask, sir, where should I lie down? Okay, avoid unnecessary abbreviations. It should be clear and unambiguous and must not be offensive or embarrassing. Like I'll give you a few scenarios in this. Okay, now imagine there's a question, have you been on leave recently? Okay, I ask to my Patna friend, have you been on leave recently? What will be your answer? What will be your answer, Patna friends? No. So this means our Patna friend has never been on leave recently. Now Chandigarh, what do you think? Is this question correct? Was my question correct? Very good. I didn't specify the time frame. Now, if my question would have been, have you gone to your home or have you gone for leave since 1/11/2016? Okay, then the answer would have been, then the question would have been more specific. See, you think this is a theoretical aspect, but whenever we form a questionnaire, these are very important points we should always be taken care into. Okay, and the type of scale which you are going to use for this particular research, very very important. Now see, what is validity and reliability? Now majority of you might have read it, but I'll make it simple to you. Okay, I'll be writing, you may or may not write it now. Okay, okay, now see, all of you in your life might have seen a bullseye. Okay, this is a bullseye. Now imagine you are throwing darts on it. Okay, all of you know if it hits the center, it is a valid result. If it hits the periphery, it is a not valid result. Okay, now imagine if I throw 5 darts and 5 darts hit something like this. So this is highly reliable but not valid. Highly reliable but not valid. Now see, reliable indirectly can be also be told as a repeatable component. Okay, if you do the research or testing multiple times, you will get a repeatable result. Okay, now imagine you get a result like this. Okay, so this is neither valid nor reliable. Now this is the idealistic scenario when you have maximum validity and reliability. So this is the underlying concept. Okay, now see, why this is important as researchers to actually understand is, see, in your research you are planning to have a research with maximum validity and maximum reliability. Now see, how do you achieve that? That is the biggest question. Okay, okay, how do you achieve that? How do you achieve that? Now see, to achieve this, let's take into this a very funny example which will actually clarify your this concept. Imagine there is a MD doctor who is basically having a patient of hypertension, and for past 6 months there is a confusion whether this patient is actually suffering from hypertension or not. Now he has a junior whom he sends to this lady's house and asks his junior to measure the blood pressure of the person 100 times. Now see, this is one scenario where you as a researcher are ensuring that there are repeated results. Now before this, there is a homework which needs to be done. What's the homework? The first thing, you have to see that the instrument which will be